The USS Sterett, an Arleigh Burke-class guided missile destroyer, is one of the most heavily armed warships in the United States Navy. Destroyers are the backbone of the Navy fleet, the tip of the spear, and are often referred to as the Swiss Army knives, designed to perform multi-mission air, missile and submarine defense, as well as land and sea-based attack. To put it simply, the mission of the destroyer is to destroy. But behind the scenes, both above and below deck, are the nearly 300 sailors who live and work within the confines of this 500-foot-long vessel, many times for months on end. Today we've been given the incredibly rare opportunity to climb aboard and join the crew out at sea to learn more about this fascinating ship and experience a day in the life of a Navy sailor. But our journey actually begins pierside here in Southern California at Naval Base San Diego, where the USS Sterett is beginning one of its most critical phases, getting underway in a process known as sea and anchor. Everyone on board has a specific role to play. In the end, what we talk about here on Sterett is that everyone's a warrior. So it doesn't matter what you do, whether you're a culinary specialist, a yeoman, doing admin type things, or if you're an FCA, fire control technician. Sea and anchor is the process of getting the ship out to sea. The sea part of the sea and anchor detail is ensuring that we have line handlers on station, ready to take in all lines and to be prepared to bring the tugs alongside. The anchor detail, those are the folks that are ready to let go of the anchor in case of an emergency. So right now you see these security boats right here. They're making preparations right now to actually open up the security barrier. They're going to bring in the tugboats. The tugboats are going to come alongside. They're going to make themselves up right here and one back aft, and then all line handlers are going to take in their lines. The tugboats are going to pull us away from the pier, out of the security barrier, and underneath the Coronado Bridge. So that's the process of sea and anchor right now. There's a lot going on, and just seeing the entire crew, everyone's like on alert to get this process underway. So after the security barriers open, and we actually push off the pier and get out to sea, we have our gunners mates and weapons department manning our 50 caliber guns right here. So they're in charge of our anti-terrorism force protection. So what are you looking out for? Any boats or like jet skis and stuff that are getting too close? Like you said, any low, slow flyers like drones and stuff like that? And it's not so much that we have to like shoot at them, it is just come out on the radio to a guy on the bridge. So we let him see. He's got better eyes up there so he can tell us what to do. While we do have rifles and sometimes our sailors are armed, the majority of the time we're not, and really our weapon is our $3 billion warship that cannot be operated without every single role that we have on board. Knowing that I'm in charge of more than 300 sailors, it's an unbelievable responsibility, but honestly, it's a privilege and an honor. I get to come to work every single day and sail with the very best our nation has to offer, and I truly believe that. So there you have it. We are officially underway on the USS Sterett. This is my first time ever navigating out to sea on a Navy ship. Now that the ship is officially underway, the crew is spread out to resume their normal duties, and that can be just about anything from manning the combat systems to monitoring communications. However, one of the most vital roles starts at the top, and I mean at the very top. Through the doors overlooking the bow of the ship sits the pilot house or the bridge, where a team of sailors are tasked with steering, operating, and navigating the 500-foot-long destroyer. We get to learn how to operate the ship and navigate the ship safely at sea, and once we meet that qualification, then we transition into the next aspect, which is warfighting and tactics, where we learn how to operate and use our combat and weapon systems to defend ourselves. I'm going to touch on some critical watch standards that we have. The first is the conning officer. So he's going to be the forward-most lookout and essentially the best lookout that we have on board. He's going to be looking out at the horizon, calling out all contacts and communicating with the officer on the deck, so that way she can make an informed decision to keep the ship safe. So, that's really interesting. So you mentioned the conning officer is driving the ship, but really he's just communicating to the helmsman, who's physically making the input controls, to turn the ship. And so, as stated for the sea and anchor evolution, we'll typically have our master helm up on the bridge, and they are essentially most experienced, best driver. So that way, we have the best person driving the ship for those evolutions. Being able to drive the ship is pretty awesome and special. I mean, we get to drive a billion-dollar warship. It's not that often that, you get to do that, but also we are in full control of the ship. As the Navy's most heavily armed warship, the Arleigh Burke-class destroyer comes equipped with a lot of armament. On the forward launch deck, you'll find the massive Mark 45 62 caliber gun that can fire 20 rounds per minute at a range of up to 13 nautical miles. To give you a reference on the sheer size of this thing, here's me standing next to it. Located on the missile deck is the 25mm CIWS autocannon, which can fire a staggering 4,500 rounds per minute to defend against incoming threats. Now rounding out the gun side of the house is the 25mm Mark 38 chain gun that defends against high-speed maneuvering surface targets, but we're really just getting started. The USS Sterett also comes equipped with surface vessel torpedo tubes for anti-submarine warfare. And where the real firepower begins is here at the missile deck with the 64-cell Mark 41 vertical launching system with 34 additional cells on the front of the ship, which can be configured with all different types of missiles for both land and sea-based attack and defense. This missile system works hand-in-hand with the Aegis combat system, which uses computers and radars to track and guide weapons to destroy enemy targets. While the answer lies down below in a secret and heavily secured area of the ship known as the Combat Information Center, an area I didn't think I would be able to see, but luckily we were given permission to take our cameras inside and bring you along with us. We're just a ship, this makes us a warship. So this is the Combat Information Center, and what you're doing here is this is where the weapons employment would come from, the fire breaks, as well as collecting all the information, whether that's satellite communication, line of sight communication, or other sensors there, all feeding it to our overall command and control. The reason this space is so vital is that if we ever are in a situation where we have to employ our weapons on board, not only is that target recognized down here, but that weapon that's picked is recognized down here, and the final fire break and the key is held here. The spy radar, in my strong opinion, is our most capable radar system. That is the most capable piece of the Aegis weapon system. It's a three-dimensional phased array radar primarily for air defense. It is what separates United States Navy from all the other countries. Our sensors are the best in the world United States Navy, but our sailors are even better. So without the sailors taking that information provided from those sensors or satellites or radios, we would be obsolete. Every single person required has to push that information out to, if you look behind me, the central node standing there, who that person will take all of those inputs to make their best recommendation to push to the captain. If you look ahead, these are LSD 1 and 2, these are all different types of contacts. You'll see the symbology showing that it's an air contact, surface contact. You won't see a subsurface contact here, but you can get the information from sonar that pushes up. So how much does this change from what we're looking at now versus if you're deployed downrange in an area where, like, it's no kidding real? It actually is going to look the same. There's going to be more and more hostile symbology tracks possibly, or suspect tracks. Not hostile, but suspect. But overall you would walk in and still see these two screens up. What the screens are telling you though would be much different. And all the weapons, right, on this ship, I mean, they're controlled from here, right? So in here is how we are able to manage those leaving, like those exiting the ship. Not only that, without the right sensors to support those weapons also controlled in here. Those weapons would be obsolete without those supporting systems. So how would that look if you're given the command to engage a target? Where's that come from, and how does this room here work together to okay, effectively launch that. So in order for that process to work on that screen or these screens, you would see something that was a unique identifier to what was a threat coming in. Maybe it's faster, maybe it's lower, maybe it's showing the altitude. You would pull the other watch standards on their spec on what their capabilities on their console are to give you that amplifying information to tell you, hey, that signature's different than just a regular flying air contact. So not only do you have to make that visual inquiry, but then you have to go beyond just the aesthetics of what that looks like and get that supporting cast information flow up. The lighting here, I mean, it's like straight out of what you think it would look like in a destroyer. Is there a reason for it? Or, yeah, because you gotta be so visually keen in the ability to recognize your screens, right? So the lighting is to help gear your eyes to see what is pronounced on your displays. One of the things I've always found fascinating about Navy ships is that their crew has to be trained to fix anything that has the potential to break. When you're hundreds of miles out at sea, for sometimes months on end, you need to be prepared for everything that could go wrong. It goes back to what we've hit on several times now. Everyone has a specific job, and every sailor is important. We make the ship go, and we keep our enemies at bay because we're in charge of the generators, power generation. So if the ship can't maneuver. If we can't generate the electricity to run a lot of the equipment, all of the equipment on board the ship, we can't stay safe. So as engineers, we all come together to make sure that the ship that stays safe. Electricity, we say, is like magic. It just can sometimes be very, very frustrating, especially when you go through certain troubleshooting techniques and it still doesn't work and you're on a deadline, we gotta go, the ship has to get underway or we're going through an inspection and this has to be fixed. It can be very frustrating, but it's also very rewarding when you're able to complete this task and fix something and get a piece of equipment back online. That is also very rewarding as well. We use what's called reverse osmosis. So we basically take the seawater, pass it through a bunch of filters a couple times, and it squeezes all that salt out, in simple terms, and they add some chemicals to it, and we create potable water for drinking and for showers and for safe consumption on the ship. So when you have over 300 people living on board a ship, you also have to have different facilities to make everyone comfortable. For example, something you don't always think about, right? Is where are sailors eating, sleeping, or going to the gym? Well, it's all down here, and that's what we are about to get a tour of. We provide material support to the entire ship of the crew. We have over 300 personnel on board, and only a medical team of 3 medics. Generally, there are 2 gyms. Now, it's not a lot for 300 people, but it's enough. It's sufficient to get the task completed. Anything from paper, pens, to repair parts, supplies, anything you can think of. For a lot of these sailors, for a lot of them, it's their first time getting underway, and unfortunately, a lot of them don't realize how much they get seasick. So, we're the ones who take care of them. What's it like lifting a weight as you're hitting a kind of wave? And well, there definitely have been injuries, but you kind of have to use what we call naval operational risk management in the Navy. You have to assess whether your workout is worth the risk of injury, which it generally shouldn't be, or isn't usually worth the risk. So one of the most prized spots on the ship is the ship store. This is where you can get your little slice of home away from home when you're overseas, and you want some Sour Patch Kids or some Jolly Rancher gummies, and you can't get them when you pull into port. So this is a crew berthing quarters. This is where the sailors sleep overnight. This is where they store all their personal belongings. The one quarters that we're in right now is a 21-person berthing quarters. Aboard, they range from as many as 99-person berths down to about 7-person berths. This is the main galley on the USS Sterett. All our culinary specialists or food service attendants work here. This is where we prepare most of the meals. So on the menu today, we've got chicken tenders, one of my all-time favorite dishes, potato wedges, spinach, and a little veggie blend. Should be great. Let's go for it. They're generous with their portions here. That's what I like to see. Now, even though this is a destroyer and not an aircraft carrier, that doesn't mean there aren't flight operations happening. The USS Sterett is equipped with a flight deck and a hangar on the stern of the ship that can support 2 MH-60 helicopters. Similar to traditional carrier operations, operating the flight deck requires a dedicated team who ensures everything runs smoothly when an aircraft arrives. The flight deck is actually one of the smaller tasks that we do on board. It's actually a team of many different roles. This is sort of just a secondary job for us where we all have to come together. And you'll see the landing signalman enlisted actually guiding in the helicopter with hand signals, indicating which direction they need to move, up, down, left, right, and when it's safe to land. The stakes are certainly higher with how small our flight deck is. It's probably one of the smallest flight decks we have in the Navy, so we definitely have to stay vigilant and ensure that we're following all of our safety procedures, watching out for each other, making sure no one gets injured. Right now, the crew is preparing for green deck operations, which is where the flight crew gets ready to receive an incoming aircraft. Now, as much as I've loved my time out here, we're about to have an MH-60 Sierra helicopter come and land to pick us up as our ride out. It's going to be an amazing view from the air of the ship out in the sea. This is going to be awesome. There's nothing quite like the aerial view of a Navy ship out at sea. And while my day here aboard the USS Sterett is over, for the rest of the crew their work continues, and they're the ones working around the clock to patrol our oceans and keep us safe. I want to give a big shout out to the US Navy for giving us the opportunity to tell this story. And if you're interested in learning more about the Navy, and possibly having the chance to tour a Navy ship for yourself, you can check out the link I've left down in the description below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you in the next video.